Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Marfione and Alexei Konygin, and I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that name, Ratax, made by Custom Knife Factory. This was a pre-order that I made and then forgot about. And I think when I made the pre-order, I was like, I'm not sure if I like that or if I really like it or if I'm just like interested in it because it's kind of an odd look. But I remember being kind of like, okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and pre-order it. And then it came in and I was super impressed with it if you watched that unboxing, but I was still kind of a little bit unsure. The more time that I have spent with this knife, the more I like it in terms of, design. I am a design reviewer, and my carry experience with this knife was extremely limited because I purchased this as a collection piece. But I love Custom Knife Factory's work. I love Marfione designs. I love, really like anything that Custom Knife Factory makes is so memorable in terms of design. So I'm drawn to them. The problem with Custom Knife Factory is that their knives tend to be just priced high just because reasons. In this case, because Marfione, right? I am not super familiar with the other designer, but apparently the idea here was to take the Marfione NX and then see it. It says on NC Blade, actually, which is where the listing for this will be. I'll link it in the description. It's probably sold out. But what it says right there on NC Blade is that this is the NX through the lens of Alexei Konygin. So that's where the Ratax comes in. And I think, I find this aesthetically like way more appealing. I think this is so cool, like some sort of alternate universe. There's something about the blade is making me think PM2, but it's just a lot cooler, right? Like it got like a serious upgrade. It's like it's PM2 at the end of an RPG, like where you have all the end game gear, right? That's what it kind of looks like to me. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Make sure and follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Make sure your notifications from my YouTube channel are turned on. Let's go ahead and measure this knife before we start talking about it here. Overall length of the Ratax, I'm going to say 8.75. I don't know what they list this as, but when I measure straight across, like from tip to about right here, 8.75 inches. And then we have that gorgeous 3.75 inch blade and 3.5 inches of cut, actually 3.55 inches of cutting edge. Blade to handle ratio in this guy is very, very good. That's why for a lot of people, when you get a near 1-to-1 ratio with blade to handle, aesthetically, a lot of people find that more appealing. I'm one of those people. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and others. Up against the 8010 in my own Excalibur, you can see here this is a big boy. He's a full-grown boy, a big one. Not quite as hefty as the 8010. A little, I don't know if I'd say it's more hefty or less hefty in areas versus my own Excalibur. Let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2, which has mysteriously disappeared. No, it hasn't. It's right there. Spyderco PM2. Here's why. The blade's different, but you can see how I'm kind of arriving there, right? It's not the PM2, not even close, but there's some little, there's some kind of PM2 blade sauce going on in there somewhere. Here it is up against the Para 3. It's bigger than both. And then finally, we'll put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue. And the Hogue Deca. How is the action on this guy? My goodness. CKF knives in general tend to have incredible action. This is one of the smoothest, my God, it's one of the smoothest feeling CKF knives I've ever felt. This is a zero friction experience, meaning, a lot of knives like, if you're new and you think like, what's the big deal? Like you can get knives with bearings for like $30. You can. Do they feel the same? No. In a less expensive knife, like something that's really good, like these are all great. This is the Vosteed Porcupine. It's a great knife. Great knife. I can feel those bearings moving around in there. I can feel it completely. Does that matter? No, it doesn't matter at all because this is a freaking $69 knife. Giggity. Who cares? Is there a difference? Yeah. When you can't feel the bearings, it's bizarre. Your senses are just like, what's happening? You can absolutely feel that. And sometimes I, get knives at this price point and I can feel it, and it's kind of like, a lot of times I can feel, the bearings in a lot of like $200 to $300 knives, and that's nothing wrong with that. You just feel them less, right? And sometimes I get this experience with knives that cost, in that territory, $200, $300, $400. Pretty much never below that. But this is the type of bearing, or pivot action that I like to feel in a knife at this price point, right? If I'd paid this much for this knife and I can still feel them kind of rolling around in there, I'm like, it's okay. But so yeah, pivot is very good. This is you can flip it. Detent's great. You can also use this little ledge right here, and that also works great. I think the detent feels awesome. A very curious design choice. It almost looks like a design oversight is the lack of any, like, we have cut this for access for the frame lock, but it's just a 90-degree ledge. Like, soften this up. It's not like, oh, ow, oh, I can't. No, it's just kind of annoying. Like, why was this not carved out in there? That's so weird. The whole rest of the knife is so, like, the design choices here, there's so much attention to detail. It's just bizarre to me. I'm going to use my own knife here. I'll pat myself on the back there. This is what I'm talking about, right? We did not carve out the front for better access. What we did do is we, I guess, scalloped or whatever the inside of both. And this creates for a much more pleasant experience for your thumb. Now, it's not like the lock bar tension is sprung, to where you have to Hercules it over. It's just like I immediately was like, oh, they didn't cut that out at all. You'll feel it. But is that a deal breaker for me? Not really. I view that as a mild annoyance. Now, it would have been really frustrating had they not carved out a spot for you to access it from the side. Like, they make you jam your finger in there. That would have sucked. It legitimately does look and feel unfinished, though. It's very odd, but okay. That's the way it is. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. This was not nearly as thick as I thought it was going to be. Like, seeing it from the front here, it just looks like a mega chunk. Like, I expect to turn it this way and just see this incredibly robust. And I turn it, I'm like, oh, it's not crazy. It is a little bit thicker, though. Like, a little tiny bit. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. Where did he go? There he is right there. This is a bit of a chunk to carry because it's an integral. I don't know if you noticed. This is an integral, which absolutely is a factor when you look at the price tag. Right? This is something that I keep hammering in because I know how many new people are here from YouTube Shorts. And I know that the first thing that happens when you look at a knife that costs more than like $50 is you think this is all nothing, and these people are just greedy. Greed definitely does exist, but there are elements that cause knives to cost a lot of money. Yes, even more than guns. Isn't that weird that elements besides the base reason for the item can actually increase the cost, right? A gun is a different thing than a knife, but the elements that go into their creation are also different and can have varying costs. So the fact that one goes pew pew and one goes cut cut doesn't have any real thing to do with how they're priced. It turns out it has to do with the costs associated with their creation, including the materials, the country of origin, the time it takes to machine these things, right? So if you're new and you look at that price tag, it's probably going to look a little ridiculous, right? And the knee-jerk reaction is to, why knife big cost? Bigger than gun cost. That's about, that's the Crayola drawing there that's being applied, and it sounds ridiculous when you take a step back. But I remember thinking that too. My point is, elements like the integral frame dramatically drive the price up. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the price tag. I just want to pop that in there real quick. Hefty boy. Big boy. It's kind of a chunk in the pocket. It's not crazy, but it is absolutely a chunk in the pocket. Let's go ahead and weigh it. So we are looking at, for materials, a titanium frame. We do have some zircotai on there. Not a lot, but we do have some zircotai. And then we have a very beautiful M398 blade, which is a very expensive blade material. Absolutely. The weight on this guy is coming in at 5.8 ounces. So hefty, but not crazy. It actually weighs less. No, it weighs the same as my Excalibur. Yeah, okay, weighs the same. That's kind of about what I expect on a full-size integral, unless it's like insanely meaty or whatever. Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness just while I have the calipers within my vision. The blade's not insanely thick. That was the biggest shock for me, was seeing that the blade was not. See, this is 138 thousandths. It's not incredibly. I was expecting at least 165 thousandths. Not that it matters to me. It's fine. The thinner blade stock is going to ultimately make it perform better with the way that they did the blade. But that was the biggest surprise for me. And then we have. Let's go ahead and do the hardware check. I'll get my tools out. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use in this channel. The pivot, because this is a Marfione design, is a T20. T20 pivot, man, that just makes me feel good. Adjusting your pivot with a T20 is awesome, because there is essentially zero chance that you're going to dick it up. It's so big, and I think it looks good too. I don't like a dainty little pivot. For me, it needs to be at least T8. I have seen a couple of T6 pivot knives before. Trash can. To the trash can immediately. You put a T6 on your pivot, trash can. Landfill. Try again. That's my honest opinion, right? A lot of times I see a T8 pivot and T6 body screws. I think all the screws should be at least T8, but the bigger the better. Some designs you kind of have to watch out for that. On a design like this that's very, very loud, it already has that aggressive, it almost looks like something that you would find in Borderlands or World of Warcraft or something. I mean, like, not that those two universes are the same, but it's just like almost fantasy-esque, right? It's very over the top, exaggerated. So the T20 works. The little stop pin screw there, which has to be on the exterior on an integral because they milled this from a single block. So that's why it's like that. You'll never have to take that out, though. I believe that is at least a T8. I'm almost certain. Let's just check here real quick. There we go, T8. And that is what that is. Ooh, it might actually be a T10. I know we're taking a little bit too long on this segment, but that's okay. What is this? Why do I have... That's just T9. I'm sorry. I want to solve this mystery real quick. Is that? No, it's just a T8. Okay. So, never mind. It's a T8. Now, you do have back here, because this is a there's no disassembly here. It's also T8 for the lock bar insert screw. But the only thing you can take out is the pivot, and that's what's kind of nice about an integral is there's just you don't have to worry about losing body screws or anything. The pocket clip can absolutely be removed. This is a CKF knife, so it comes with an insane amount of additional hardware. There's the bearings. If you want to take a look at this, it's definitely part of the reason that we're experiencing that super duper smooth action. You can use the little tool here I'd probably use the back end to remove this little glass breaker thing that I am going to forget it even exists because it doesn't matter to me. And they include, if you want that classic Annex look, this horrifying little death spike. You can put that on the back if you want. I don't like that. I don't like big, glass breakers because it looks like my knife is taking a little robot poop, and I just don't like it. But if you like it, I think that's fine. It's nice that they give you the option. I love that. Honestly, the more hardware, the more extra stuff you can give me, the better. And that is something that I really do appreciate about Custom Knife Factory and a bunch of I think Custom Knife Factory and Max Ace do the best job of it. It's something that I really appreciate, and it is something that I consider when looking at the price tag a little bit. None of those parts individually are very expensive, but it does add a little bit to include those, so that's neat. But anyways, we've done the hardware check. We've done the way. Okay, let's move on into the meat and potatoes. This is not a contoured frame, but it does have these big chunks taken out that it makes it feel so meaty. It adds like this visual weight to the knife, and I really can't describe it, but I love how it looks. And I understand this is very subjective, but I really like how this looks, and the look really grew on me. Also, the way that the blade looks like it's angled down, kind of. Like, there is, I guess, some more straightness to it, but the curvature here, the handle suggests that the blade is going, like the tip's going to be up here, but then the blade is like sort of angled down. And initially I wasn't sure what I thought about that, but I kind of like it. And it's part of what is making this knife so, like visually, this is the type of thing that's hard to forget once you see it. And that's a lot of Marfione stuff. It's a lot of stuff that CKF does in general. Like when they work with these designers, is they work with people who create these visually unforgettable knives, whether you love it or hate it. And this Ratax is definitely, like, it's in a knife world where everything is it's just an ocean of stuff that we've all seen a million times, including my design. My design is just like kind of a, and I like it. But my design is a great example of like a knife that looks like a million other knives. And that's, the way that came about. It's on purpose. But stuff like this, as a design reviewer and as somebody who is unable to design like this, it's stuff that, I find so much more interesting. It's just cool, and it's so unforgettable, I love the shape of the pivot collar, and this is a little more subdued. We've been seeing a lot of shiny Timascus, a lot of shiny Zircati, and I love that stuff, but I think sometimes it's a good idea to tone it down, and I was kind of on the fence about whether or not I wanted it to be more shiny, and the longer I've had it, the more I realized that this was the right choice to make it kind of subdued. It's a nice little accent, but too much shine, it just draws attention right here and not to everything else. So I think it looks really, really even. Stonewashing looks nice. This is all very, very finished. Everything except for that cutout there. I don't know why they didn't do that, but it all just feels so well machined. It's so well finished. It's just, I love it. Ergonomically, it's actually fairly comfortable. This area right here, you can kind of feel the jimping there, and there are areas that feel a little angular and blocky, but nothing feels sharp. If you were to actually take this out and use it, which some people will, I don't think it's going to be the most comfortable experience you've ever had, but far from uncomfortable. Far from uncomfortable. The jimping feels good. They've got two little zones. Let's talk about the blade. This is a very, very interesting blade. And one part of it I just love. So you have the machine flats here. You have this darker zone in the this little groove that they've carved out. And it's kind of like acid wash. Then we have almost like a vapor blasting or a glass blasting on the bevel that leads down to the cutting edge. And then the little cherry on top. The one part of the blade that's mirror polished is the swedge. That is such a classy touch. That is such a classy touch. I keep envisioning this knife with like a mirror DLC and that's cool, and I would love that too. But the way that this was done, that nice little touch there, it has 4 different finishes on it. It's really cool. It's straight and then a sudden aggressive belly out to a very fine tip. Factory edge is screaming sharp. Let you guys take a look at that plunge grind there. It does thicken up, aggressively, but that's something that the individual can decide for themselves if it bothers them. These are numbered. They're limited. If you are newer or, you just are like, I'm interested in CKF knives, I can never get them though, you got to pay attention to NC Blade. And you got to be ready to pre-order, and you have to be willing to like set the pre-order and then just forget about it for 6 to 9 months. Like that's pretty much how it's going to go. A lot of these are, you put $100 down and that $100 goes into the price. I mean, maybe. And then you wait, and then they go, hey, it's ready. And then you pay the rest of it, right? They tell you what the total cost up front, but, and when you do, pay it off, they get it to you. Like, I paid this thing off and it showed up the next day. I could not believe it. They ship it fast. Unless you like pay your bill on a Friday, like it's probably going to make it to you in a day or two. So I like that. I really, really enjoy NC Blade. I think that they're one of my favorite retailers. And no, I don't have any affiliate links. I would love NC Blade. I would love to be an affiliate. Please create an affiliate program. I would love it. But no, I don't. If you buy something from them through my, because I'm going to have this linked. If you buy something, I don't get any kickbacks or anything like that. But yeah, they're awesome. One of my favorite retailers, and they carry the CKF stuff, and that's where I get it. And I'm gonna keep buying through them. But yeah, the blade is just really cool. Can you use the hole to deploy it? Not really. I think that's almost purely aesthetic, and I can't reverse flick it either. It's not in a position for that. I think it's really just to complete a look, and it does that. Really enjoy the bevels there on the inside of that. I think that looks cool. There's something, this is like a combination of aesthetics that are both primitive and futuristic. In some ways, it almost looks like a caveman's tool. And in other ways, it looks like it's from the far, like the deep future. And I think it's maybe because like some of these shapes are not perfectly straight. They're a little, it's got kind of like a clunky grace to it. Like a purposeful clunkiness. Does that make sense? I think this is Alexi. I looked at his page and I was like, I recognize some of these designs. And when I use words like cave person and clunky, they're the wrong words. It's not like this perfectly streamlined, like the straight, he does this thing where he just takes kind of odd shapes and puts them together in a way that aesthetically are very, very pleasing to the eye. That's redundant aesthetically and I'm sorry. You understand what I'm saying? You can tell when I get thrown for a loop by certain things. The more I look at this, the more I appreciate it, is what I'm trying to say. And it looks very, very futuristic without having that typical, like every line is perfectly straight look, right? We have the CKF logo back here, which I think is fine. We got a nice big old lanyard hole if you really want to put a lanyard on it. Pocket clip's actually pretty good. Some of these, these double bump clips that Marfione just loves it. Sometimes they drive me nuts. This one's fine. Got the Marfione logo back here. I think that's pretty classy. Steel lock bar insert right here. Look how they have put that in there. There's a cutout in the pivot access, which is that's what these are, right? They're pivot access covers, and they've just added the little design element of making them zircotie. But there's a cutout to accommodate for the screw. I just think that's cool. Really like that. Stop pin located back here. No shouldering, but that's okay. There is no blade play up, down, left, or right. There is no lock stick. There is zero pivot lash. It is buttered glass smooth. Medium detent. When I got this, I was like, oh no, it's like slightly off center. And then I realized I just needed to tighten down the pivot a little bit. This is the type of knife where they leave the pivot not Loctited, and that's good. If you buy this, as you continue to flip it, that pivot is going to kind of work itself out. They do this, in my opinion, intentionally so that you can adjust it exactly the way you want and then Loctite it if you want to. I'm going to leave this one unloctite. I don't mind. But yeah, if you're going to use it, like I would definitely say that you should add some Loctite. And no detent lash either. What was the price of this knife? $645. Wow. No knife should ever cost more than $100, and any knife that's over $100 is a ripoff. That's what somebody says when they have absolutely zero idea of what goes into creating this stuff. People who say that all you're doing is holding a big sign up that says, I don't know anything about this industry. I have only ever shopped at Cabela's and Walmart for my pocket knives, and they do what I need them to do, and I have not bothered to look into anything that costs more, and so I'm just going to sit here with this opinion, and that's the extent of it. So we don't have to listen to people like that. Now, am I going to sit here and try and justify this price tag to you? No. I do think that this costs too much, but not like it's over $100 and it's a knife way. We're going to be reasonable like we always are. We're going to look at the facts here, and we're going to take a look at the competition, and then I'll tell you what I think. This is a product that is manufactured. Most of the work is done in China. Now, CKF is a business that is registered in Slovakia. It used to be Russia. It is not anymore. It's in Slovakia. The OEM that they use is Kevin John. Kevin John is an OEM that has done some really weird and interesting stuff. They have made clones in the past. I do not believe that they do anymore. And they obviously are an incredibly capable OEM, so it's nice that they have moved away from that, if that's true, because there's no reason for them to waste their time with it when they can, make these beautiful, original, authentic collaborations. This is an authentic collaboration. between CKF, Marfione, and Mr. Konygin. Again, probably not pronouncing his name correctly. It is an integral. It doesn't matter that it's made in China. That doesn't magically make, titanium. It makes it less costly to machine, right? But it doesn't like magically reduce the cost to $50. There are people walking around functioning. These people drive cars. People walking around thinking because it's made in China, it just automatically reduces everything to like right around the $50 territory. That's idiotic. But it does cost less, right? If you were to make exactly this knife in the USA, my God, probably double, honestly, probably over $1,000. But it's made in China. It is grade 5 titanium, and it is an integral. So the cost's up there, right? If we're looking at two pieces of titanium and M390, and it's made in China, roughly, at a full-size knife, that's a $200 knife. This is titanium and M398, and M398 costs more. So if we're starting with the base of the $200 typical titanium frame lock Chinese knife, premium, we go up from there because it's M398. We also go up again because it is an integral. It doesn't matter if that's not a useful element to you. It factually costs more money to carve out an integral, to machine a single block of titanium and get everything exactly right. This is a lot of additional wear and tear on a machine than just carving out two scales. It is, factually. It's not contoured and it's not textured, but there is a fair amount of additional machining going on in the frame. We also have two pretty big chunks of zircotite here. A little bit more. Comes with quite a bit of additional hardware. That's nice. We do have a milled clip, right? Also, something to be said for the blade. The blade is not simple, and there's 4 different finishes on it. I think we go up from there as well. When we compare it to a baseline, full-size Chinese premium integral titanium frame lock, I like to kind of hover around the $400 expectation zone. You get under $400, I think it's amazing. There are some full-size titanium Chinese integral knives with premium blade steels that have pretty darn good design work. That like the one that Dalibor Bergam did with Wii. That guy came in at about $380. That was about one of the most impressive ones I've ever seen. You have some that cost substantially less, like Spyderco's collaboration with what was that Italian? Anyways, it's the Italian integral that Spyderco knife that's like $280. Yeah, it's a lot less. It's also a way simpler knife. It's a smaller knife. It's very flat. It's very straightforward. It's cool. There's nothing wrong with it. But I can see immediately, I'm like, here's why this knife costs less, right? So we got to be fair about it. So this is $245 above what I kind of consider that baseline, like that quintessential $400, like the well-priced premium full-size Chinese integral. Are you getting $245 more of a knife? Originally on the unboxing, I said this feels more like $5 to $550, and it's $645 so that Tony Marfione can get $100 out of every knife. I don't know. There's 2 people involved plus CKF, so we have to factor that in. Even if you don't like it, even if that gives you a tummy ache, okay, they're not charities, they're businesses, right? The fact that Marfione's name in it is going to sour people up because, people kind of know, like if it says Marfione, like they're going to charge more for it. I am going to come up from where I originally said it feels more like a $5 to $550 integral. It feels more like a $550 to $600 integral, right? If this had come in at about $599, I'd have been like, I think that's fair. So I think that this is overpriced by at least $45, and that's pretty par for the course for CKF. On a positive note, this is probably one of the least overpriced CKF knives. And like, this is a real foggy way I'm going largely based on like comparing to direct competition, and there's a fair bit of emotion in there. It's very subjective, right? So I'm kind of all over the place. Am I happy with this purchase? Yes. Is this a purchase that everyone should make? No, absolutely not. If you're going to spend $650 on a knife, there's a lot of different stuff. You have to have gotten to that point in the ladder where you know what you want. I know that I want this. This is a knife that I wanted so much that I was like, I think I'm going to go ahead and overpay for this, right? I didn't buy this going, yes, all of those dollars were appropriately spent, right? I can see, what goes into this. I do know what goes into creating an integral when you look at especially different countries, right? I know how much more expensive it is to do a blade like this. and not just a plain drop point blade. So I'm trying to be fair, but yeah, it feels a little bit overpriced. Still really cool. It's not going to go in any of my recommended knives playlists. It is going to go in my personal favorite knives of all time playlist because it's freaking awesome. Why they didn't carve this out, I have no idea, but this is so cool, man. I think it's awesome. It's crazy. I paid too much for it. Fine. It's really cool. Anybody else who picked this knife up, you guys probably also absolutely enjoy it. But anyways, that's going to be it. This is a 30-minute video. My God. You can always tell that if it's a 30-minute video on a pocket knife, it's probably me saying, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it, right? I mean, you probably know. Anyways, check out NC Blade for this or future CKF stuff or just stuff in general. They're awesome. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.